Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going over this pistol that you see in my hand and that you saw me shooting throughout the intro. This is a Smith Wesson M&P 2.0 Subcompact. This one's a 9mm. They do make it in other calibers as well. So basically, this is the latest evolution of the M&P 2.0 line. So we'll sort of walk you through that first. I think I have all of them laid out here. So of course, the original that came out was our full size here. We have a 4.25-inch barrel, 17 round magazine capacity. Then next in the chute was this guy right here. This is the compact version, which is essentially a Glock 19 size. And I have reviews on all of these pistols that you guys are going to see here in just a second. If you guys are looking for them, they're up on the channel. But this one has the 4-inch barrel and then 15+1 capacity. Next up in the chute is this guy right here. This is the 3.6-inch compact model. Has the same exact grip as the 4-inch that you guys just saw here, just has a shorter barrel on it. Now the subcompact takes this slide and shortens the grip on it. So you guys can see there our slides are identical on the two pistols. However, the grip size is reduced. So for those of you guys who carry 3 o'clock position, 4 o'clock position, which I do, that will reduce the signature or possibility of printing of the gun. However, you do give up some rounds. So let's get into all the details of the pistol and walk you through what I think of it overall. We'll start out here on the bottom and sort of work our way forward. So the magazines that it comes with, it does come with 2 12-round magazines. One of them will have a flat base plate like we have here, and one of them will have the extended pinky. However, if you note there, it is hollow on the bottom, so you don't get any additional capacity. But I know some folks like that just to get a full grip on there, whereas with the flat one, for me, I'm at about 3.5 fingers, but with the extension there, I am able to get all my fingers around there comfortably. But it also comes with 2 extensions. So it comes with extensions. This one here that allows you to use a 15-round mag and still have that flush fit on there, which is nice. And then it also comes with an extension for a 17-round magazine, so you can use your full size there and have the full size grip and no sort of pinching or anything like that on the grip when you're holding it. So my advice for you guys is that if you are going to use any of these extension pieces that are on there, I recommend not using them for a second mag. Like if it's your extra mag that you're going to carry, I recommend not using them. Now, I realize that may sound strange, but the reason for that is if you're, say, carrying these in your belt, these little things can slide down over time, and then when you go to insert them, sometimes the mags won't seat fully. And with a double stack mag like we have here on the M&P series, there's no possibility of quote-unquote over-insertion, so you can't slam it up there too hard and damage the gun or anything like that. It simply isn't going to happen. So if you are going to use it for carry, again, my recommendation is use it just like this, and then you just have a little bit of magazine hanging out if you ever get to the point where you've already expended your 12+1 rounds. If you do that, you'll definitely be in the news because that almost never happens. But if it happens, there you go. Continuing upward on the pistol, we do have the 2.0 texture. Now, I really like it. I've talked about this in previous videos, but I think it really is right about the perfect texture all around, because if you're out shooting on a hot day, if your hands are sweaty or bloody or whatever the case may be, it definitely sticks to you really well. But for me, and I do carry this gun inside the waistband, it's not so aggressive that it really hurts my skin or anything like that. That said, if you're one of those people who it does, you can just take some light sandpaper to it and make it a little bit less aggressive where it is going to touch your body. But I really like the grip texture, have zero issues with it at all. We have this little piece here, this tool that comes out, which allows you to take the pistol down without pulling the trigger, which we'll show you here in just a second, but it also allows you to change out your back straps. So it comes with, I believe this one comes with 4 different back straps. You can change the grip size, so that way it fits your hand just fine. And the grip angle there is, I believe, 18 degrees, right about what the 1911 is. So for most folks, these pistols just simply point very naturally when you go to present them at the target. Our magazine release I should say, is not ambidextrous, which I do like. Ambidextrous magazine releases can cause problems. In my experience, they can cause mags to fall out when you don't want them to, and can cause them to not fall out when you want them to, but it is reversible. So if you look here on the magazine, it is cut for ambidextrous release. So if you want to swap it out to the left side, for those of you lefties out there, feel free to do so. It'll function just fine. Continuing on forward, we do have our slide lock and slide release. Now this one is changed from the 1.0s if you guys had the original M&P pistols. And basically they added some extra material in there to prevent it from auto forwarding. So on the earlier M&Ps, for instance, the 1.0s, when you went and put a magazine in with some force, sometimes the slide would go forward due to the force being imparted on the gun. With the 2.0s, I've never had that happen, and that is due to that improved portion there on it. We also have our takedown lever, and I should note that our slide stop and slide release is ambidextrous, which a lot of folks do like. We verify that we are clear. At this point, we'll get into the trigger. So the 2.0 trigger, in my opinion, is excellent. It's definitely a step up over the original one. So it is a hinged trigger. So essentially, if you don't pull this bottom part of the trigger right there, let me come in a little closer, get close and intimate with you here. So if you don't pull the bottom portion of this trigger, it will not fire. So if you just push up here, as you guys can see that I'm doing, no matter how hard I push, there's no way the trigger is going to fire. That is one of the safeties that is built into the pistol. However, when you go to pull it, we'll do it left-handed so you guys can see that. We have a little bit of play here, and then you hit your wall. At this point, a little bit of creep and a crisp break. Now, a crisp break for a factory trigger. Yes, I know a lot of you guys out there are saying, oh, you need an Apex trigger. I don't think so, and I haven't put any on any of my M&Ps. And then a reset right there. It's tactile and audible. A little bit of uptake, and again, it breaks cleanly right at 5 pounds on my scale. This one's a touch lighter than my earlier ones. I don't know if that's just a manufacturing variance or anything like that. Also note that it does have an over travel stop there built into the frame that the early M&Ps didn't have as well. My opinion, you know, if you can't shoot this gun due to the trigger, well, then you just need more trigger time. It's plenty accurate in terms of practical use out there on the range. Continuing on forward, we do have a 1913 rail on there, which is excellent. It's definitely one of the big advantages, and we'll compare here in just a second, don't worry, over it's probably its biggest competitor, which is the Glock 26, because you can use like real lights on there. You know, the TLR 7.8, the Enforce lights, a lot of the O-light lights, etc., all work on there, and you get a lot more lumens than you can with some of the lights that are built to adapt to the 26 frame. Continuing on up into the slide itself is steel, of course, and it has that Armornite finish on there. Armornite is Smith & Wesson's version of QPQing or nitriding or salt bath nitriding or any other name that you may hear of a similar process out there in the industry. So what it does is it gives you good corrosion resistance, good surface hardness, and it's actually not just a black finish, which looks nice. It actually imparts the properties into the metal itself. So even if your finish is starting to wear, which this one kind of is up here at the nose from Carry, that Armornite process still imparts those features that I just said into the metal beyond just the surface. So it's a very tough and durable process, which is probably why a lot of companies out there in the industry use it. You guys can see over here on the left side and on the right side up front, they did a little bit of a lightning cut there to lighten it up. On the top there, we do have a loaded chamber indicator. It's just a hole cut out, so in low light you may not be able to see it, but during the day you can look in there and see that your round is actually in the chamber. We had these, what I call them sort of as faux serrations up front. Maybe they're there for looks or to lighten it up a little bit, but they're not super functional if you want to do press checks up front. However, these scallop serrations there on the rear are fantastic. They're some of the better ones out there in the industry. I don't know anybody that has a hard time grabbing a hold of them, regardless of how they run their slide. Just excellent in that regard. Now, this particular pistol came with the 3-dot system from Smith & Wesson. I replaced them with the DXT2 sights from XS, which I really like, and there's going to be a durability test that I think you guys are going to like coming up on these sights here shortly. But long story short, recommend them for sure. Either way, the sights that come on it from the factory are steel, which certainly is nice. 3-dot, just basic configuration. They also offer night sights from the factory. Disassembly and maintenance on the pistol are pretty straightforward, but there's always new folks here, so we'll show you how it's done. Basically, you're just going to press up on either side on your slide lock and slide release lever and pull the slide to the rear. It will lock the slide to the rear like so. At this point, we're going to take our takedown lever right here and just rotate that down 90 degrees. You'll feel it click into place. And you have two options at this point. So you can either just let the slide go home, pull the trigger, and the slide will come off, or you can take your tool down that we talked about earlier, and there is a sear release on the inside. If you look in there, hopefully you'll be able to get a shot in, and it's painted yellow. If you pull that forward, that will release your sear and you won't have to pull the trigger. I know that's a source of contention for some folks with striker fire guns. I'm pretty used to it at this point, so it doesn't really bother me. I have verified the pistol is clear, so we're gonna let our slide go home, press the trigger, and at this point, our slide will come off. And you can take a look there at the internals. One thing that's different about M&Ps versus a lot of the competitive options out there is that the frame has more steel in it than others. Of course, it is a polymer frame. It's a glass-infused polymer, but it's got some serious steel inserts in there. Again, compared to other offerings on the market, for example, like the locking block's got about twice as long as the steel section. That does a couple things. Number one, it increases accuracy, but it also increases rigidity of the pistol when you fire, so it has less flexing. And one of the benefits I've found over the years shooting with a lot of people, teaching people to shoot those sorts of things, is that when a frame has less flex to it, particularly in the case of polymer frames with metal frames, this really isn't an issue. It has less likelihood to have limp wrist malfunctions for inexperienced shooters. So that is a good thing. If you guys are looking at this as something that you may have, you know, your wife, or if you're young lady, or if you're a new shooter, regardless of sex or age, new shooters have a tendency to limp wrist and not really hold the pistol properly. So it definitely decreases your chances of having that problem in terms of malfunctioning because you're holding it incorrectly. So here we do have a steel guide rod, as you guys can see. A lot of folks really do like that over polymer. Myself, I don't really have an opinion. Both work as far as I'm concerned. Our barrel here, you'll see it does have that nitrided or melanite, whatever they call it over there at Smith Wesson, armornite, I believe, finish on there. 3.6 inches, has a target crown out there at the end. It's got a 1 in 10 twist. We have a very generous, if I could actually wipe the carbon off there, very generous polished feed ramp. This gun's fed hollow points without issue, as you would expect. And you guys can look in there on the slide. Pretty basic stuff, but it has really good machining on there. If you guys haven't watched my Smith & Wesson factory tour, I recommend checking it out. You can kind of see how all of these things are made, but machining is flawless. We do have our striker safety there in the rear, which is another internal safety for the pistol. And putting it back together is the exact same thing, just in the opposite order. As I promised earlier in the video, we will compare it to the Glock 26. I don't really like doing comparison videos, but I also don't like posting the exact same comment 1,000 times in the comment section. So we'll try to answer most of those questions there and also stir up some controversy because that's what you guys seem to like. So from the factory, capacity-wise, to get a flush mag with the Glock 26, you only get 12 rounds, whereas with the flush mag here, on the M&P, you get 12 rounds, and if you kind of line everything up there, you'll see that the +2 extension there with the Glock does stick out more. So if that is a concern for you in terms of concealability, there is that. In terms of overall size, though, if you line the backs of them up, hopefully you guys can see that there. It's pretty darn close. I would say the M&P is about a 1/4 inch longer, if that's a concern to you, but you also get a longer barrel and a little bit more velocity coming out as well. So that certainly is nice. With they're identical in any kind of practical way there. The sights that come on the pistol, regardless of which ones you go with the Glock here, their plastic sights that they issue with their pistols are terrible. And honestly, they should be embarrassed to release pistols out of the factory with them, in my opinion. I've seen tons of them fall off in person, never mind all the reports I've seen on the internet of them. And their night sights are fine, though. They do offer a night sight option. They're 3-dot, they're made of steel, so they're quality material. However, the factory, even non-tritium version from Smith, like I said earlier, is a steel 3-dot configuration, and their night sight version, in my opinion, if I had to pick one of the two from factory offerings, of course, both of these pistols, the beauty of them is that there's a myriad of different sights that are available for them. But the tritium 3-dots from Smith & Wesson are a little bit better because they give you, there's a little bit more room in between the sights as you're looking through them from the factory. So like this is what you see, so you get a little bit better situational awareness from the shooter's perspective, whereas with the Glocks, they're like that. So you kind of have to overlap everything and you don't really see what's going on around your front sight. But again, I think the Glock night sights are okay. I'm not bashing them in that regard. Triggers on the two. Gen 5 Glocks, just like the 2.0 Smith & Wessons, have come a long way from their originals, and I think they're both pretty darn good for service pistols, for carry pistols, for duty pistols, whatever the case may be. I would say the Glock probably has an edge in terms of reset. It has a little bit stronger reset still than even the improved one on the 2.0 here. However, I'd say the 2.0 has a little bit more of a clean break. But again, my opinion, both of them are fine in terms of that regard. The M&P, if you guys want to mount a light, has a huge advantage. There's nothing Glock can do about that right now. The best lights I've seen out there for the 26s are the Streamlight TLR6, and then I believe the Crimson Trace one also makes it for this one. I don't have it for this model, but I have it for others. Those lights are okay. They're definitely better than not having a light in my opinion, but the options that you get having the 1913 rail on there, they're just better. There's no getting around it. Price point, let's talk about that. Street price is what I'm going to talk about, not MSRP. Street price, you'd get a good deal if you found this around $500. And with this one, you get a good deal if you found it in the $400 price range. We'll put links down below for those of you guys who are looking to pick one up. But in terms of the price, you definitely get more options here, or more for your money, in my opinion, with the Smith & Wesson than you do of a Glock. However, Glocks are very proven pistols. They're very good. I'm not bashing it. I'm just saying, price-wise, M&P wins. That is not an opinion. That's simply a fact. Now, with that portion out of the way, and all the Glock fanboys are busy down below posting in the comments section, we'll move on with the rest of the video. Really, the only important thing that I didn't discuss, I think, at this point is going to be reliability, because we already touched on price. This gun's had 0 malfunctions. We have 900 rounds, or just over at this point, of mostly Minuteman munitions, but about 50 rounds of Federal hollow points through it. The 124 grain and 148 grain HSTs, it's had 0 issues. It's eaten them up just fine, and asked for more. I don't know that I've actually ever had a malfunction with any of my M&P 2.0s. I'd have to watch the videos to verify that, but regardless, I will say they're very, very reliable guns. And I think, although M&Ps are gaining like market share, if you look around the striker fired space, I still think they're underrated pistols. They're simply excellent. So many people who I bring out to shoot for the first time, who want their first pistol, whatever the case may be, I'll put a ton of guns in their hands, and a large percentage pick the M&Ps. They just have a really good shooting impulse. They have a nice low bore access, which is nice as well. I should have mentioned that during the Glock comparison. There's, like I said, there's a lot of good striker fired guns that are going to be similar in size and capacity to these two, but not a lot of them have nice low bore access. Not a lot of them point as naturally as the M&Ps do. I think they're excellent guns. I've said it in the past that, you know, I grew up kind of as a shooter, shooting Glocks, because I didn't know any better, and that's just how it was. And so I'm very used to a lot of the Glock idiosyncrasies out there. However, I think if I was a new shooter, I know if I was a new shooter and I hadn't shot anything else, the M&Ps would absolutely be my go-to. And even now, these are my go-to. So if you guys were asking about that earlier, the 3.6 is a gun that I carry all the time. This gun gets carried a lot. I trust it. It's very reliable, has good capacity like we talked about, and the barrel's a little bit shorter, so it doesn't dig into you as much. If you guys are appendix carriers, that may be something that you do care about a good bit. And the 4-inch here, the compact version, this is the gun that my wife carries all the time. My wife is kind of a hippie, as some of you guys know who have watched our travel vlogs, and she carries this in a little pouch here, so she's like nothing fancy with that. So but yeah, so she carries it in there, and it carries just fine, as you guys can see, and there's even space for an extra mag, and it doesn't look out of the ordinary when some little hippie chick's just walking down the road, but she's got 16 rounds of 9mm ready to go. So yeah, it's an excellent gun. The one thing I was thinking when this was announced is, will it make the 3.6 obsolete? Maybe. I don't know. Of course, because with this one, like we mentioned earlier, you can add that extended mag to it and get it out to the same capacity and have a similar feel in your grip. And I do like these extended mag options for sure. I think some people think I'm bashing them when I talk about them, but I'm not. I'm just talking about the reload aspect of it. Regardless, having that ability to say carry this gun all day, then take one of these mags here with the extended piece on there and have 17+1 capability with factory reliable mags. That's awesome, right? So it could be your carry gun during the day, 12+1, come home at night, just swap the mag out, and you got your home defense gun right there. So there is that. I think that pretty much covers it. If you guys have any questions about the pistol that we didn't talk about here in the video, by all means, post down below in the comments section. However, if you need an answer to your question, the best place to reach me is over at my Facebook page. Send me a message. I get back to everybody over there. Sometimes it takes me a few days because there's literally hundreds of thousands of you and only one of me. And I don't have any, well, I do have moderators over there, but they don't answer questions. So I'm the one answering your questions when you do. Message me over there and I'll get back to you. But either way, guys, thanks for watching. I truly appreciate it and look forward to seeing all of you in the next video.